welcome to another episode of Minds of Dreamers. Today we have a very special episode. We're currently amidst a global crisis, a global pandemic, COVID-19. Most countries across the world are operating at very low capacities. Most countries are on lockdown. Most people are on lockdown. And so what are the financial implications of this? What are the economical impacts of this? And how does this affect workflow? How does this affect businesses? And what does business look like in the future? No doubt things will change. The debt cycle that we are currently in will go on for a lot longer period of time. And so what is it that we can do to understand what's going on, understand how we can improve and pivot according to what is necessary in the marketplace? So we sat down with David Leon to understand, to have a chat about what he thinks is going on and where he sees the shifts being made. So David Leon is a real estate entrepreneur. He has businesses across the real estate industry. He has investments across different countries, and he is also a professional speaker. He has spoken with the likes of Tony Robbins, Sir Richard Branson, Grant Cardone, and Gary Vee. And so these are big names, and I'm absolutely stoked to sit down with him, have a chat with him, see what he thinks is going on, and let me know in the comments and any questions that you guys do have, and would be happy to connect. So thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate your support, and keep in touch and stay safe.
So welcome to the show, David.
Fantastic to be here, CJ. Looking forward to having some fun and hopefully sharing some good information and details about what I think is going on, and more important than that, what you can do to make the most out of a really crappy situation.
Exactly. So David, let's take it back a step a little bit so that our viewers get to know a little bit about you, and tell us a little bit about where it all started for you, and how you started getting to a point where you wanted to build an empire for yourself.
Yeah, well, I never kind of wanted to build an empire. It's something that fell upon me, kind of thing, rather than me trying really hard to do so. Born and raised in Spain until I was 18. Then I moved to the States. I played tennis and basketball, so I played in college. I got my degrees in. So I got degrees in biomechanics, minor in biology, with a couple of associate degrees in athletic training and exercise science. I've always been really interested on nature and health and fitness and just sports in general and well-being. So that was my background. That's what I always loved to do. I've always been fascinated with performance in sports, and I've had a love relationship with it. But when I finished, I went to Spain and I absolutely hated it. It wasn't what I wanted, wasn't there. And a friend of mine said, "Hey, I'm going to England. Do you want to come along?" I went in there and I started a new life, a new chapter. And that new chapter involved that I was working in Harrods, spraying perfume for a living. I did that for 3 years.
Spraying perfume.
Yeah, it was a great way of meeting girls, but then there was no real point on continuing it. I met my wife, who's a Kiwi. That's why I live in New Zealand. She was an air hostess for Air New Zealand, and I was spraying perfume. We needed to do something different. And that something different was property investing. We went to a few seminars, and one of the ones just caught my eye, and I went for it. So we started buying buying properties using none of our own money. And the same people that taught us were impressed by the results that we were getting, and they wanted me to share the details and how I put it all together. And that's how I started speaking, and I loved it. I absolutely love speaking, sharing my story. I think I have a bit of a knack for it in terms of the person that I am and I become on stage. I can just turn into that and share that spark, which is what I'm very passionate about. So I've spoken now to hundreds of thousands of people over the last, going since 2003. So 17 years now that I've been speaking worldwide, sharing insights and helping, hopefully, a ridiculous amount of people. Absolutely. And I've spoken with the likes of Richard Branson, Grant Cardone, Gary Vee, Russ Whitney, Robert Kiyosaki, you name it, I probably work with them. And it is a great way to keep yourself motivated as well. When you're working with people at that caliber, you cannot be playing the game at a low level.
Absolutely.
So it's just been a beautiful evolution. And I do a lot of property over here in New Zealand, but also in Australia, where I'm involved in a property development company as well. Besides that, I bought properties, like I said before, in the UK and Spain. So that's the 4 different jurisdictions that I bought property on. And besides property, I like property businesses. So one of the businesses that I founded was Wealth Mentor, which teaches people how to invest in property. That was in 2010. So this is going to be the 10-year anniversary of Wealth Mentor. And we've helped thousands of people, thousands of people to be able to reach great success through property. And I'm very passionate about business as well. And I've helped a lot of people as well when it comes to business setups and being able to make more out of business propositions, evaluation, and so forth. And that's one of the things that I want to be focusing on today. It's just different business opportunities, not just property, which definitely I will talk about as well.
Exactly. No, that sounds awesome. So it sounds like you sort of started in one thing, started with property, and then sort of found your way, found your rhythm. And I mean, when you're in rooms with people like Richard Branson, that's just that, you're absorbing information at a different level. So I mean, did that profoundly sort of shift and change and give momentum for you, or was it sort of just all the days? What was that experience like?
I don't have this thing of idolizing people. I've never been that person. I think it's a very dangerous game. And I think it's part of the rubbish that we're actually seeing in today's world. Is people that are indoctrinated into a school of thought, and then all of a sudden critical thinking disappears. So I see someone like Richard Branson as a good guy that has achieved great things, but I'm not in love with anyone when it comes to that. It's just, I love the ideas. People are just people. We all have flaws. We all have strengths. And it never pushes me to be better in terms of the person that I'm working with. The ideas, though, that turns me on. So I'm more of an ideas person rather than a people person. And ideas is what we all should be discussing rather than people. That's how things evolve and move on to the next level.
Yeah. No, that's very, very true. I think even I sort of get caught up in that culture because of the information that is just, that you're just consuming at a rapid pace. So so let's get into, you've obviously got a lot of perspective coming from property background. You're definitely like in the trenches of the market. You've got your personal assets in there, so it must mean that you have to really understand what's going on in the world economics at the moment, and what a lot of the governments are doing as well. So do you want to just give us some sort of an overview of what?
I can get started with that. The reality is that being involved in any kind of business and investments means that you need to be aware of what's happening in the world. At the same time, I've always been really strong. I'm telling people that understanding macroeconomics and trying to time the market is the wrong thing to do. Anyone that tries to time the market screws it up and misses open opportunities and usually doesn't do well. The smartest people in the planet get it wrong 8 out of 10 times. So I don't expect to be better than people that are doing this for a living. So it's never been my game. My game is being simple. And I think that a lot of people like to do too many things, like to spend too much time. I've always considered myself really lazy. And for me, the reality is that the less that I do with better results, the more time that I have to do the things that I really love to do. And that's what I try to teach people all the time. So what's happening in the market now is something that hasn't happened before. Although we can look at economic factors and economic slowdowns and then draw some conclusions that we can put into what's going on now. But should we actually start talking a little bit by my slightly controversial thoughts and ideas about this virus and what it means for the economy? Is that okay with you?
Absolutely. You should definitely, that will definitely set the tone for the rest of the podcast.
I think so, because we cannot really make decisions on our investment not knowing what is likely to happen. Could things change? Definitely. I mean, we're getting new information about this virus every day.
Every day.
from symptoms to death rates to number of tests to different countries and propagation. Everything is changing on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I am basing the information and the decisions that I make by the information that I have today. Okay, and that's really what I'm good on. It's just reading, analyzing, and not taking the ideas that we get in the media. To be honest, I think that the media is the most dangerous virus that we have at the moment. And in these situations, especially, I mean, I've always been very critical of the media.
Yeah.
Because obviously they have an agenda. The agenda is that they need to sell their marketing spots, right? So in order to sell their marketing spots, it's a hell of a lot easier to sell it by selling negative shit than by actually selling positive and reality. And this is a perfect storm, right? A media that was actually dying, all of a sudden, everyone is glued onto the TV to watch those 1 p.m. Shows. Literally, it's becoming a show, right? Like a ritual about how many people are infected, how many dead, how many whatever it is, you know?
It's a reality TV show, exactly.
It's worse than that. It really has become worse than that.
Yeah.
And they wanna perpetuate this. The longer that they have people stuck on the TV with negative stuff, the more that they're actually going to be increasing that media, that marketing availability to be able to sell their product, right? So this is the reality of what we have. That bad news, they are biased. And they're biased because their revenue is made on marketing. It's not made on anything else. And that is a problem. The problem that we have to know and understand as well, because if we are not thinking that way, well, then we cannot make good decisions. It's let me go on to, for example, financial advisors and mortgage brokers. They are getting paid in the majority by the banks or the financial institutions that they are recommending products on. So they are a biased part of the population, right? Yes, they're supposed to have ethics and codes and everything else. They're supposed to give you the best product for you. But are you supposed to know as an investor where to put your money? Definitely. And that's why I believe in education, because you're the only person that should be responsible for that. Same thing in the media. They're giving you data, but you're not supposed to just absorb it and believe it and have a cult-like following, which is what we're seeing at the moment. And the problem with my ideas is that they're slightly controversial because they don't follow the rhetoric of the government at the moment. And that is a problem. But at the same time, I think that they need to be heard. And I always say that a healthy mind can hear an idea without having to be either indoctrinated on it or offended by it in any way. Just listen to what I'm saying. If it makes sense to you, that's awesome. You know, if I can help, that's good. If it doesn't make sense to me, to you, hey, don't take it. Take whatever it is that makes you feel right, okay? But I'm just going to give you numbers. And that's a reality of what I know. Excellent. So I'm going to start with how bad is this and how long is it going to take to get out of this thing, right? I personally don't think it is that bad. And I am basing that on numbers. One of the best podcasts that I've actually heard while I've been analyzing data and trying to figure out what's going on is one that Tony Robbins did with a group of experts. And it's fantastic. We're talking about some of the best and smartest people in America trying to figure out what's going on and what the reality of this virus. We know by the data that the average age, the median age, is in the high 70s. We know that it doesn't kill kids. It doesn't kill young people. It does, obviously, everything does. It's infinitesimal. So essentially, it's the same concept that Jacinda explained us all about elimination, right? When you have something very close to zero, you're basically eliminated as a factor. So that's essentially what I mean by that. It doesn't kill young people. It kills people with immune issues. That's it. Those immune issues tend to be related to diabetes, especially, and hypertension. So those populations, which is all linked to obesity, right? And mainly. So these people are at risk, and they're the ones that are dying. Everyone else, they're not. You know, the reality is that they get something mild or no symptoms whatsoever. So that is definitely what's happening. In my view, those people need to be protected with everything that we have. And we're throwing money left, right, and center. It's a hell of a lot cheaper, and that's my controversy here, to protect those people than to close down a country. And we should be, in my view, already in level 2. And by the way, this is not a criticism to Jacinda or our government, quite the opposite. If I had been in their situation, which I don't wish upon myself, okay? If I had been in their shoes, I would have probably done the same thing with the information that they had, because they based their lockdown and their reaction on data that they got from the who basically took the report by the Imperial College in London, which was tremendously flawed. And they were assuming a 7% mortality rate. 7. Obviously,
That's
even if it was a 4.
Yeah, but it's only at 1.5 or 1.6, something like this.
Is it? That's what we don't know. And that's a reality again. I'm going to give you some numbers and some studies, but we don't really know what it is because we haven't tested the population for antibodies. So we don't know who's had it and who hasn't. So the best approximates at the moment and best studies are saying that 90% plus of the people do not show any symptoms or so mild that they will never go or get tested for it. That's 90%. So essentially, what that tells us is that in New Zealand, we have about, 1,400, 1,500 cases. We probably have had infections around 15,000, 10 times whatever it is that's actually on the data, okay? And I'm just going to go by New Zealand status at the moment because most of the audience is going to be a Kiwi audience or around here, down under. So 15,000, and we've had 19 deaths. Now, that's where it gets interesting as well. I don't want to sound callous or taking this too lightly. Every death is about death, but 19 deaths that all had comorbidities. These are people that had already issues, respiratory issues. So obviously this virus helped to create that, but it's not necessarily the primary cause of death. They died with the virus rather than of the virus. And there is no real data. The government is not letting us see this data. And that's a big issue. But let's assume that all of them died of COVID. That's 19 out of 15,000 rough infections. We have a mortality rate of 0.012. Very similar to something that we all know, which is the flu, which is 0.01. So that's based on what's happening in New Zealand as we speak, based on the data. But let's not just take it to New Zealand. We have Stanford University, they're pretty smart people over there, that put in the mortality rate between 0.1 and 0.2. We have the study in California, in Santa Clara, between 0.12, okay, 0.012 and 0.2. We're talking about much smaller numbers, 0.1 to 0.2. In Iceland, 0.1. We're talking very similar to the flu. New York City at the moment, we have quite a few studies, great city, but that's a problem with a great city. A lot of people work together and live together and very close by, so the mortality rate is always going to be a bit higher.
Exactly.
And they're still looking at 0.5, okay? So yes, it's higher than a flu, but just higher than a flu. And this virus is targeting the same people that a flu was going to kill anyways. So that is a big thing. And in New York, especially in America, we've had a massive change in the way that we're reporting deaths as well. And that's something that people need to be aware of too. The CDC basically has told doctors how they should be reporting deaths when it comes to COVID. So they don't have to test for the virus. If they show symptoms that look similar or look like the virus, they can classify it as a COVID death. It's crazy.
Wow.
And that's available for everyone to look in their website in terms of how they qualify. They don't even need to test. It's probable, okay? That's all it is. It's probability. And that, for me, is not good enough. And the other thing that people don't know is that, yes, we're seeing massive deaths in America. I think we're going over 60,000 now. But everyone should be aware that over 300,000, that's not 60, that's not 100, that's not 200, over 300,000 people die in America every year of respiratory disease. 300,000. Obviously, those are the ones that are going to be dying as well out of COVID. So we need to take everything.
You're saying it's a part. It could just be a part of the 300 that's dying anyway every year based on the numbers, and we're just looking at it going, oh look, it's COVID death.
Yes, and I'm not saying that it's not, or that it's not serious. I'm just saying that it's gonna kill a lot less people than we first anticipated, and that's why we made the decision that we made, because obviously the numbers were so big. But when you're looking at the actual numbers now, we have to look at, well, we made the best that we could with the information that we had. What information do we have now, and can we make better decisions? And that's what I'm asking of every government, not just our government, every government, because what we're creating is a hole, a black hole that is gonna really mess people up. And I want to talk about two concepts now. One of them is the value of life, and the other one is the concept of humanity. A lot of people are going to say, just by hearing this, that I'm being callous or unhuman by trying to put a number or value on talking about deaths the way that I'm doing it. The reality is that by closing borders and doing what we're doing in terms of lockdown, the people that are going to suffer are the ones that are worse off in our community. We're talking people that are already suffering with depression, anxiety, stress, suicide, malnutrition. This is just in New Zealand. But what happens to the people in countries that are literally already suffering from hunger? We're talking about third world countries. Those countries cannot export anything now. The exports have dropped 50, 60, 70, up to 90%. And for them, it's not about having to share a home with their parents or something like that. It's not about getting a government handout. For them, it is a matter of not being able to eat, not being able to feed their family. When it comes to numbers, and I have numbers, I don't want to talk about nonsense. We're expecting over 1 billion people, and that's done by the UN, okay? This is not bullshit. Over 1 billion people that are going to be suffering from hunger. That's any form of hunger. That's a big number. But I'll give you a bigger one. In terms of starvation, the projection now with what we've done in lockdown is over 265 million people will suffer from acute hunger, which equals starvation, which equals chronic illness and death. 265 plus million people. So anyone that tells me that what we're doing is for humanity, or what we could be doing is inhuman, I just ask them to just give me an answer to how we're going to be helping these people. Is it because the color of their skin is not the same? I'm not going to open that racial thing, but the reality is that we know where these people are. They're Sub-Saharan, the Southeast Asia, they are the usual suspects, and we need to take care of these people. So I'm okay if we close down, as long as every country with money puts together a package to take care of these people. Because the reality is that I'm going to be doing well. And that's the other thing. I'm going to be doing well regardless. I have money. I see this as a great opportunity, right? Assets are going to go down in value. I'm going to be able to buy more assets. Assets are going to come out. I'm going to be fine. I'm not doing this for me. I am good. I'm doing it for everyone else. Then the other concept that people, when they're talking about this humanity factor, don't want to know, or maybe they actually don't know, is what we call the value of life. Governments have to make decisions on whether they're going to treat someone, let's say for cancer, for any kind of treatment, right? And they have to value a life. The average value of life by governments at the moment is $129,000. $129,000, right? Wow. That's what they value, and they have to make those decisions. For example, if we have a few hundred deaths every year, 300-400, I believe it is, on road accidents, right? We could do things that would slow people down and will decrease those deaths. But if we do that, this is going to be a cost to the economy. So the calculation is pretty simple. By doing this, we're going to decrease the economy by that. So we can afford to lose that many people. And that's where we're going to leave the things the way that they are. So we're making these decisions all the time when it comes to cancer, driving, everything. This is not callous in any way. This is being done every year. Okay, this is the way that it is. And it's literally, the average is 129,000. Now, let me give you some numbers.
That's 129,000 for the cost of having and servicing
one life. That's what the government says is worth spending on. Right, and then there is obviously, yes, that's how much they can spend on it to keep you alive. That's how much you're worth to them. So more than that, they're not going to treat you. They're going to calculate in terms of productivity, and that's how they make decisions on whether they're going to fund different treatments or whether they're going to be making decisions, like I said before, for example, driving decisions, right? So that's where we are, 129,000. But let's look at New Zealand. We're going to be spending, this is going to cost us over $80 billion. There is no way that what we're doing yet. We're starting now, right? So this is going to be going 50, 60, 70 billion. Let's assume 75, okay? I did some numbers based on that. So if it's 75 billion people, we're looking at the actual death rate that I'm assuming at the moment on 0.012, which is based on the data that we have at the moment. Could this change? Of course it could. And if it does, we just basically move it up or down. I'm not married to this idea. If numbers change, I'll go on to the other side. It's just about being realistic. Yeah. So worst case scenario, we're looking at 3,800 deaths, because that's 60% of the population. That's basically what we're looking at, right? At 3 million people getting this disease. So 3,800 people, about 75 billion, we're actually looking at $20 million per death. 20 million. So we have a cost of life of about 129, right? But for COVID, we are assuming that it's okay to spend $20 million per person to keep them alive. The average, and this is horrible to say, but the average death in New Zealand, again, high 70s. People with other comorbidities. Are we mortgaging the future of several generations for something that is just, even if it's 2 or 3 times bigger or worse than the flu, is this worth doing? Are we doing enough for the other people that are going to suffer more as a result of this? These are the questions that I keep asking myself. And before that, and again, this is just my own views on what potentially could happen and will happen probably. Once we get more data, governments will loosen up their restrictions. That's what we're seeing in Germany, as we're seeing in Denmark, as we're seeing in different countries that are getting it, right? They know that the death rate is shrinking. Therefore, they're increasing services that are upping their economy, because that's what you have to do. These countries are opening pretty quickly. We're going to have to follow suit, otherwise we're going to be left behind. There was actually just the WHO is now, there was a director, fairly high up, I forgot his name, but I read the article this morning saying that Sweden should be taken as a model for what to do after lockdowns. Right. That's an interesting one. When everyone's been smashed in Sweden, now they want to take it as a model as what to do, how to actually behave as humans. Absolutely crazy, right? So what we're seeing is that hopefully the data will show that this is not as bad, and restrictions will be loosened fairly quickly. So my assumption at the moment is that this is going to last another 2 or 3 months before things start returning to some kind of normality. It's never going to be normal because there is too many industries and too much money now that has moved from one place to the other to be normal. But there will be a new normal. And this is going to be 2 to 3 months before we start seeing that normality. What's going to happen with that? Well, we're going to create a cash flow gap of epic proportions. We're going to have something similar to what happened in 2008, but worse. And that's a reality. And it's a cash flow gap. So the industries that are going to be doing well are industries that are lending, because it's like a cash flow gap in a business. You are doing a service, but then you're not getting paid until that payment or payment terms come in. That's exactly what we created in a parallel universe with this virus. So we have that cash flow gap, and we need someone to actually make up for that cash flow gap. Governments are going to help, yes. Banks are going to help. Lending institutions are going to help. So what we're going to see these stocks really going through the roof when it comes to these lending institutions. It's going to be a money game until we get things back to normal. The problem is unemployment. Just in America, we're looking at about 30 million. We have potentials in America to reach 30%, or the equivalent of 50 million people unemployed. It's scary beyond comprehension. We are going to see, whether we want to admit it or not, in New Zealand, we are not leading the world. We follow what the world does. And even if we are fairly separate, we still suffer. And this is going to be the second wave that we're going to see within the next 6 months. we're seeing the first wave of job losses.
Yeah.
The second wave is going to be industry fall. And what we saw in 2008 is that both property market, especially the property market, took quite a while to reach a bottom. Right? It's going to take about 12 to 18 months.
Yes.
So we're going to have a process, a timing. So you're not in a rush to buy. And that, to be honest, not many people are going to be in the market. At the same time, even if you're not in a rush to buy, there's going to be some really good opportunities because people are going to need the money. They're going to need to sell, and there is not enough liquidity in the market to make that going. So it's a good time to buy if you're looking at the medium to long term. And look, I've been teaching people to invest for cash flow and not to invest for equity or growth or expected stuff for the last 10 years, right?
Right.
And everyone said, don't do that. That's bullshit. That's not how you make money. Look, you make money one way or another. The reality is that I wanted to keep people safe. And when shit happens like it's happened now, that's when good people that are teaching the right things can sleep at night. People that are teaching negative cash flow and negative gearing in Australia, which is huge. They're the ones that are basically destroying people's financial futures. So it's all about cash flow. It's all about being able to protect yourself when these downturns happen. So we're gonna have about 12 to 18 months to make really, really good decisions, because it is not based on abnormal downturn, which, by the way, I do think that we will do one. We will do one in the next couple of years. So this is just basically brought forward something that's going to happen anyways. It's almost like the concept called harvesting. Basically, it's just bringing forward something that was roughly, and we will do one. Especially the stock market was do a severe correction. And where we are now, looking at what we saw in 2008 and how deep it went, the stock market, we still probably have a good 20 to 30%. And by the way, this is not financial advice in any way, it's my beliefs. So we're not even close to seeing the bottom of it. At the same time, there are some real good investments that took place during GFC and that were very simple investments. For example, gold. And it happens in every recession. Every time that there is uncertainty on the market, investors flee to gold. And you can have a pretty good run just investing in gold. So if you have very little, you can do it. You can invest as much or as little as you want when it comes to that. So this creates opportunities. This is going to create a really good mattress to buy properties. But we need to know as well what type of property is going to be sexy to people at this stage. And that's completely changed. The properties that we were buying that used to work, they're not going to be the ones that are going to work. I did a really good webinar with Ben Doyle, one of my best friends in Australia, fantastic developer, award-winning developer over there. Nice. And the main thing for him at the moment is creating apartments, creating buildings that have work for home opportunities. So all the architects are already thinking about this, how to put it together, because what we're going to see is a world where people are going to be working from home a lot. Because for me, and this is what Tony Robbins calls it, I didn't come up with this thing, okay? This is a practice pandemic. This is not going to kill as many people as something, for example, with the mortality rate of SARS, Ebola. This is not that, not even close. But we will have something like that. That's a reality. That we live in a world where we're engaging with nature, with the way that we live is disgraceful. And that's going to create more of these illnesses, more of these pandemics. So these are trial run. We need to get it right. We need to figure out what went wrong, what went right, how to do it better next time around. Wow. And that's what he's very, very strong on. And I would advise everyone that the best thing that you can actually have is a very strong immune system and take care of your health and what you do and what you put in here. That's what's going to protect you for the next one. So this is just a trial thing for something bigger. So we need to be aware of any kind of property that we do. Now, the problem that we're going to have is less money, right? So less money means more people renting. We're going to see a move from owning to renting because there is fear. If there is fear in the market, less people buy, more people rent. So we'll see increases on rentals, so that is a flat line while property prices drop. In tourism areas, and tourism is going to be absolutely annihilated, we're looking at Rotorua, we're looking at Queenstown, especially. Those two markets are going to be decimated. There's going to be some really good opportunities on both of them because they will drop, and they will drop heavily. And that's why I've been very reluctant, especially to invest in Queenstown, because I know what happened on GFC and how had it gets hit over there. So there will be opportunities over there. They will drop heavily, and you have to be aware of those opportunities. If they make sense cash flow wise, go for it. Absolutely smash it, because there will be good apartments over here in the city. Same thing. They are going to struggle. They're going to suffer. In Auckland, you're looking at investor areas. Investors disappear. They get terrified when something like this happens, which is crazy. It should be quite the opposite.
Quite the opposite.
No one does it the right way. It's weird. But they disappear, and that means that properties in South Auckland, West Auckland, traditional investment areas are going to suffer. They're the ones that are going to see the bigger drops. It's the name of the game. And that is going to create an opportunity. But look at properties that are either small, or you can subdivide and make them smaller. For example, the unitary plan lets you partition a property into two, essentially by just getting a building,
with enough land on it.
Consent. Yeah. Correct. Yeah, just building consent. You don't even need a resource consent for that, as long as you're doing it within the code. So you can do those things and create more income streams. So what you're trying to do or get is several units in a property, so that you can create more income streams over smaller properties. We're going to have smaller units. We're going to have less people having kids as well. With less money, less kids. It really comes in direct proportion. And then we're going to have as well what we call intergenerational houses. So essentially where several families live together. One of the biggest costs of Italy and Spain having such a high contagion is that in Italy and Spain, people live together within 2 or 3 generations. I have that in my own family. We have actually, one of them is 3 generations of people living under the same household. So of course you're going to have a high contagion, because a lot of people are living in close quarters. Yeah. And according to every study, that's how this virus flourishes, in small quarters, not so much in the open space.
I see.
So that's what we're going to see over here as well. We're going to see a big jump on boarding houses, which are fairly unregulated. So we'll see some regulation coming through. So boarding houses, multi-units, intergenerational houses. So that means 5 or 6 bedrooms at least. Those are the houses that you need to be targeting. They're the ones that are going to have massive demand. They're going to have better growth, and they're going to give you better cash flow anyway. So it's a win-win the way that I see it, and you can get to help people. Social housing is going to be massive. The government is going to be throwing money at this. I think I was reading the other day, just 150 mil, just temporary accommodation in hotels, just for a couple of months. Wow. We're talking big money is going to be thrown at investors because they don't have the resources. So we're going to have to fill that gap to give social housing to people that are going to be jobless. Unemployment is going to go through the roof. Those people still need to live somewhere. So it is your responsibility to provide good, solid, healthy accommodation for those people so that they can remake their life, reinvent it, and work hard. Kiwis are fantastic people, so are Australians, so is everyone down here. And we will get out of this one. I have no doubt. It's a matter of when. This is just a hiccup. This is just a little bump. But we need to help. And as investors, that's what we're here to do, to help as much as we possibly can.
How scared or how concerned should a property investor be about about finding tenants for their properties that they want to go and buy, the occupancy of it?
Well, there will be a lot of tenants. We will have an increase in tenants, and there is no question in my mind about it. Because we're going to have less people buying, we're going to have more people renting. The problem is not so much finding tenants, is we're going to have problems with defaults of payment. That will be an issue. Right. And that will become a more prevalent issue that we haven't had before in New Zealand. We really haven't. And we will see that for the next year or two. And you have to do your due diligence a hell of a lot deeper when it comes to getting a tenant, because you're going to have more to choose from. And these people that have very unstable income sources should really be applying for social grants. And hopefully we will see our government taking initiative and helping them, because as investors, we cannot really invest on something that's actually going to lose a ridiculous amount of money. Our government has put a price onto all this, and they have to stick by it now. So they have to help people that they have harmed by the decisions on saving the people that are not going to die. You see what I mean? This is always a trade-off. And it's awesome. Look, if we can save everyone, let's save everyone. it's the reality of it. Let's save as many people as we possibly can. But if we're going to do that, there's going to be a cost to it. Everyone needs to be prepared to pay for such a cost. So we will have plenty of tenants, but we will have more defaults. I would say just be prepared for this thing. Just have better diligence, have better letting agents. That's the big thing. Most letting agents in New Zealand are pretty horrible, to be honest. It's a criticism that I'm happy to make, because they're almost decades behind some other places in the world. So it's a great opportunity for the industry to reinvent themselves, to do better. And that's what we're going to see. We're going to see a lot of different industries that are going to be doing things so much better, because they have to now. They have to become competitive. They have to do things in a different way.
They have to innovate. They have to
Oh, it's so exciting! It's so exciting. And as people with money, one of my big goals and obligations over the next year is to invest in young people with good ideas. Younger than me, obviously. I'm in my 40s now, early 40s still. But I need to make sure that I help young people to be able to do more and bigger things, and that I can identify good ideas and back them up. Because now is the time where big ideas become great businesses, and change evokes this level of growth and profitability that we haven't seen in a while. So I am stoked for where I am and the position that this opens me, but I'm also very acutely aware of how much my social responsibility has increased to do some good for the rest of the community, not just for my own pocket. Quite the opposite. It needs to be all about what else can I do for other people rather than myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's when I think when change like this happens, you mentioned there's a lot of flow-on effects that'll be taking place in industries within, sort of changing industries themselves. And I think those create opportunities for other entrepreneurs and for investors as well. So what sort of, what industries do you see? I mean, obviously tourism, property, these things, but anything, do you see any direct or indirect sort of industries that will require necessary change and innovation in tech and things like this?
Before that, I mean, a couple or a big industry that tends to do extremely well when there is a downturn is fast food restaurants, for example. So what we have to look at is investment opportunities first, rather than change, because people still need to have fun. So what you want to be looking at is, for example, companies that are looking at apps, small things, right? So this is the stuff that people love at the moment. So they're still going to want to buy things, but they cannot afford to buy expensive things. So anything that's being made that is relatively cheap, but it's different and it's sexy and it's exciting, that's what people want. And that's what we need to be pushing. That's what we need to be putting our money. That's the industries that are going to be doing better over the next 12 months. Now, that's 12 months. Everything changes after that, because then we're going to start in the recovery phase. So we're still in a downward phase. And this is a 12 to 18 months phase minimum, depending on how long the lockdown lasts. And that's what everyone needs to be aware of. The next 18 months are going to be fucking terrible. There's no way of putting it.
There's no doubt
They're
about
going to be absolutely horrible. And it's going to be from bad to worse, because everything, it's like literally we're just about to enter the tunnel. We haven't even entered it yet. And it's a long tunnel, and it's going to hurt, and the unemployment's going to hurt, and all the consequences of that are going to hurt, and the international markets are going to hurt, and everyone's going to hurt. So that's where we're going. We're going to go fast, and then we're going to hit the bottom, and then we're going to recover. So when we're going down, obviously there's going to be specific investments and industries that do better, and that the recovery-driven industries. And to be honest, I've never been too good on investing on those ones. They seem to be very temporary. They don't have that longevity that I want. It's the ones that actually start going after we hit the ground. That's when the Ubers of this world came about, Apple, all the big companies, they were all created on recessions on the upside, okay? That's where you want to be. And it's all about innovation. It's all about, at the moment, it's all about, unfortunately, people working from home and staying home and less mobile, which for me, is a horrible way of living your life. I think there is a certain beauty about being able to shake a hand and go around and travel and meet people and do things.
Absolutely.
And what we're going to see is the limit of that, which is sad. And we're going to see those industries are going to be flourishing because there is going to, this fear that we've created doesn't dissipate. Well, it dissipates, it doesn't disappear. Let's put it properly, in proper English. So it will dissipate, but it will not disappear. We have literally terrified a generation of kids. My daughter is 11, and every day for homework in her homeschooling, it's been about COVID-19.
Wow.
Something related to COVID-19. So everything from the mathematical, the math homework, all the way to biology, everything. It's been related to the virus. And it's good that I'm at home and I can help out. But for the average person, the average kid, that is going to leave drastic changes in their mindset and their fear levels and anxiety. Oh, crazy. What they've done for me is criminal, essentially, what we're doing. So make sure that kids don't watch TV and stay away from that and talk to them and explain that they're safe. That it doesn't kill kids, that it's not the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination. Because what we're doing is that kind of industry, that kind of business that's going to help people to eliminate that fear. We're going to see a flourishing on it. Different ways of insurance. So insurance will have to reinvent itself. I expect different cool things coming through on that industry. Banking and lending, because of the changes, they're completely going to create different ways, and especially now because money is so cheap, right? We are going to have a flourishing of lending and different ways of looking at lending. We had finally peer-to-peer lending that was making big advances. What we're going to see is peer-to-peer lending exploding, absolutely exploding.
Wow!
Because there is going to be more people wanting it and wanting to make money. So we'll see those industries doing extremely well. This kind of situation helps those industries, and that's where you want to be putting your money. That's where you're going to be putting your resources. It's anything that's different, and just be bold. This is the time to be bold, not to be scared. This is the time to actually take risks, to put everything into different investments. Don't hold back. This is the time to do it. This is where fortunes are made. It's not when the market's going up. It's when it's going down, and you can buy assets cheaply. You can get really good quality stuff at the moment. That's the other big thing. I mean, we can get better, and we're going to be able to get better employees. These are highly qualified people that, for example, have been working on tourism, and now all of a sudden they don't have a job. Well, I want them all. They're fantastic people, and they're going to bring a different mindset, a different way of fixing problems that other industries didn't have before. So this is exciting because we're going to have that. We will see more of a, hopefully, more ownership by people on their businesses and wanting to be a part of it. I'm talking leadership by employees in terms of helping their business, because they would have to take that pride. They're not going to take things for granted. Correct. And we will see, and I do believe that Kiwis are some of the best workers in the world. Don't get me wrong, they're fantastic. But this is going to make them even better because they're going to appreciate what we have even more. And sometimes you need to have a setback. You need to see the negative in order to really appreciate and be grateful for the positives.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's very interesting. Insurance, P2P, it seems like you sort of really recognize the cycle that we're in and sort of base your decisions on where things are headed, where the ship is going. And what's sort of your take on, where normal people can start, what they can do in terms of, if someone's lost their job, I'm sure we covered quite a bit, but just for someone who's sort of just watching the news and lost their job, what would you sort of say to them?
Now is the time to work on yourself. You see, my view on life is that you have to compete with yourself to become better all the time. And people become complacent when they have something that seems pretty safe and secure. And that is that's a way that you kill your own life, really, because you're not evolving. In life, you can either evolve or dissolve. This is the time when you need to work on your leadership skills. This is the time when you need to look at your presentation skill, communication skills, written skills, verbal skills. All those skills that are taken for granted and you didn't think that you may need, well, you need them now. So this is the time to upskill yourself. The opportunities will come, and it will be had over the next 12 months. There's no other way around it. I actually don't think that people should be wanting to make drastic changes over the next 12 months. You have to survive the next 12 months. As someone that has less, that's a problem with what we've created. You just need to survive, and just take it like that. Take it as a learning experience. It's a time to learn, to evolve as a person, so that when we come out of this one, you are the person that you would want to hire. You are the person that you would want to invest in a business in. I don't invest so much in business ideas as I invest in the people that I believe in.
Wow.
So when I'm looking, and I have looked at, seriously, I've had some great guys because of what I do, that they come back to me already over the last few weeks. I have this great idea, I have this fantastic idea, and I look at the ideas, and the ideas were great. Okay, from fantastic apps that could have been amazing to different business propositions and different ways of doing things. Unfortunately, the two best ones that I've actually had and I liked, the guys were not ready. They were not the guys that I wanted to invest in. And that is important. You need to make sure that you have that. And it's hard to create, but that charisma, that strength, that resolve to take an idea to something much bigger. So this is the time to work on yourself. Just go online, do every program that you can possibly do. Read, learn, talk, network. This is the time to network. And I know it's bloody hard because you cannot talk to people face to face. But there are plenty of networking opportunities online at the same time. That's another thing that probably will flourish. And one of the ideas that I was pitched is around that. It's about networking online and doing it in a very different twist. So the idea was fantastic. And there's going to be some people that are going to take this sort of idea and problem and fix it and do it beautifully. So this is the stuff that people need to be doing. You need to know people. You need to interact, and they need to see what you're about. If you don't know what you're about, you need to figure it out. It's more important than ever. Anyone that has those doubts, that has that lack of confidence, of skills, it's not going to be necessary. And if you're not necessary, or people won't invest in you, there's no real point on doing anything. And for me, when it comes to investments, it's all about return on investment, right? Yeah. So I rarely put any money into anything that I invest in, because people know what I'm about. So I look at a specific amount of return on investment. I look at all the aspects, and I'm very conservative, and that's why everything that I do, most of the things, do really well. So if I'm investing into something, I'm going to have money from other people. That means that my return on investment is extremely high. You need to be thinking of yourself as that. You need to be that person that can put $1,000 and get $1 million from investors because they believe in who you are. If you're not that person, you need to buy yourself a mirror. Look at yourself in the morning, every mirror, and be like, am I that person yet? And if you're not, you need to keep freaking working and working hard, because this is the time to evolve. Yeah. Correct. This is the evolution time. And then the opportunities will come. There'll be a plethora of amazing opportunities coming to us over the next 18 months. Just don't rush it. I would say it's the best thing on these things. Now it's the preparation time.
Yeah. You mentioned something with how you see that work environments are going to change, how we build houses, and the whole architecture of how things are going to work is probably going to change. And this is just a trial of what's to come in the future, for our generation, for 50, 100 years, ahead, the different epidemics and the pandemics that we're going to go through. And so, how do you see that playing out? And how do you see the flow on of, from where we are to where we need to get to? Is that going to be a long slog, or how do you see that playing out?
I think it's going to be pretty fast. I honestly feel that for what I'm seeing in more evolved markets like Sydney, they're already making changes to even existing builds. They're creating communal zones where people work, so that you don't have to leave your apartment block. they're getting bigger gyms. They're changing the way that they're doing, so that you don't have to leave your own apartment block, so that you can work there and then commute every once in a while. They're seeing more projects already, and literally developers looking at outside the cities, the main cities, because land is a lot cheaper. So, for example, just talking about Eastern Sydney, going not even 50 minutes away, right? And we're really talking about paying less than half of what you normally pay in something not inner Sydney, but on the outskirts, half of the price. And developers were not touching it before because it wasn't the demand. But we're going to see is that all of a sudden everything is going to spread out. So we're going to see satellite cities. We're going to see the likes over here in New Zealand. We're going to look at places like Huntly, for example. You know that yes, I know that they've always had a bad name, but the reality is that it's so close to community,
the location
and Hamilton, and it's still cheap to build. And if you can create homes that people can feel comfortable and work from, we're going to see that exploding, and better advances when it comes to communication will make these things extremely possible. So I think that this is happening now. I don't think this is a matter of years. This is a matter of it's already happening. And the people that are doing it now, they'll have a niche product. They'll have something that they're not competing with anyone else.
Yeah.
And when you have a niche product, you set the price because you have no competition. You have to create your own niche. You have to create your own ideas and expectations. One of the things that, for example, one of our investors was doing is just creating boarding houses for students with transport. They were a little bit further than the usual university house. Okay. So he was getting them cheaper than most people were getting them, but he was getting them a little scooter as part of the package to be able to just commute to the university, right? And then he was putting a big screen TVs, computer consoles. We're talking all those little cool things that people want, and he's creating a name of himself, actually herself, because she's doing it differently. And that's what you want. You want to create a niche product. And we're going to see those changes now. We're already seeing those changes. Developers don't mess about when it comes to these things because everyone's scared and everyone wants a solution. And these guys, we're going to see a lot of developers going down, obviously, now, because they're not going to be able to sell the products that they're building or have built. But then we're going to see the ones that stay are going to be doing amazing products, and the housing, the quality of the housing needs to step up and go with the times, and the times are changing.
Sounds amazing. I mean, we covered quite a bit there, and I think for anyone who's listening, there's so many opportunities that you can look at. After coming off the back of what people are listening to on the news and the negativity that's being just brought down on you, to actually look at the reality of the situation and go, this is a huge opportunity for people, and it's going to be tough and it's going to be difficult to come back, but normality itself will change, and how can you be a part of that? I think is the opportunity. Is there anything?
Spot on at this stage. Well, I just wanted to leave with a few thoughts, a few ideas in terms of how to put it all together. At this stage, just take care of yourself, of your health, of the people that you care and give a shit about, okay? And even the other ones that you don't give a shit about, just take care of them too. We are truly on this together. The best defense that we have for this virus is a good immune system. Make sure that you eat well, that you exercise, that you do what you're supposed to do, and take care of that part of the system. If we do that, we can really decrease the painful deaths that unfortunately we're going to have. It's just a matter of being resilient, and hopefully this is going to change quicker than we expect. I'm hoping for that based on data, saying that anything could happen and you just have to be prepared for a longer term problem. But in my view, it's not going to be that long. And it's just a matter of getting through the next 12 to 18, working on yourself so that you can take it to the next level.
Perfect. Was there, so if people wanted to reach you for any questions that they might have, or, anything that they wanted to reach out to you about, is there where can they reach you?
Social media seems to be the easiest way of doing things at the moment. So it's a Lazy Investor Club. Whether you go to Facebook, you go to Instagram, anything like that, just smash it over there. Ask me questions. Anything that I can do to help is great. I like to just put my life on the line when it comes to those social media things, so that people see what the things that can happen when you invest well, and how much fun it is to make decisions. And it's not hard. It's not supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be exciting.
Exactly. No, that's awesome. I'm sure. And I actually really enjoyed, the freedom in which you express your ideas, and I'm sure a lot of people would do as well. So really appreciate that. And thank you so much for being a part of the show.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a lot of fun. And like I said, I'm here to serve, and we'll get through this pretty easily.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Have a great day.